I'm going to talk about environmental change, but I will focus on climate because I'm a meteorologist. There's other environmental factors like soil quality and water and things like that, which I will not talk about. I just want to start with something interesting. I only have 20 minutes, so I can't talk a lot. But Johan also mentioned that the things in the agricultural sector, especially when it comes to climate, it happened in cycles. And these are just some of the interesting cycles, apart from the day-night cycle, the seasonal cycle, the El Nino, La Nina cycles. The first one is actually the tilt of the Earth. There's also a cycle in the tilt of the Earth, and it followed a cycle of 41,000 years. Then there's also a cycle in the rotation of the axis of the Earth every 26,000 years. And then the important one is the distance of the Earth from the Sun, which is a cycle which takes about 100,000 years. And at the current position where we are in, we have a comfortable climate of approximately 15 degrees Celsius average over the Earth. Because of these cycles, these are two graphs. The first graph is going back 150,000 years ago, and the cycles that's caused by the distance of the Earth, the rotation of the Earth around the Sun, is actually causing 100 years of cold periods, which we see there on that side. And we are currently in a warmer period. There was the Holocene epoch, which was the previous warmer period, and we are currently here. So we are supposed to fall back into ice age again, probably not in our lifetime, but in the near future. But very interesting, many people talk about climate crisis, and I just want to say something. They say that if we exceed a value of 1.5 degrees Celsius, there will be a great extinction of life on Earth and a really big crisis. Now, this was work that was done by Peter Tyson from Wits, South Africa, at the Makapan's Gat. It's in the Limpopo province, and he used stalactites from a cave to look at historical climates. And not so far back, in the year 1000, he said that there was a short, or 1300, there was a short period where in southern Africa we had temperatures higher than 3 degrees warmer than today, and it didn't cause mass extinction, although those sort of increases in climate will cause a lot of discomfort in our environment. Now, if we come to South Africa, I think most of you are aware of the weather patterns of South Africa. In the first place, we are located in the mid-latitudes, where we are being influenced by different weather systems. There's also seasonal shift, winter, summer, which is causing rain in different parts of the country, different rain patterns. Then we are in the subtropics, where we have large air masses sinking down from the upper atmosphere, causing dry conditions in our country. We know that all the big deserts, the Atacama, Namib deserts, and these dry places are located in the subtropics. And then we have the summer, where we receive moisture from the tropics, and the winter, where we receive actually rain from moisture upliftment against the cold fronts that's moving through. And then also we have the remote forcing, where the most important one is the El Nino, the ENSO effect, which we know has quite a significant impact on the central parts of the country. So in the first place, what this is telling us that in South Africa we have a variable climate, and I think the farmers are already adapted to some extent to the variability in climate, and that is putting us in a stronger position in terms of climate change. But let's go to the climate change issue. Most of you are aware of the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. I know it's difficult sometimes to explain the relationship between temperature and carbon dioxide, but all the signals are indicating that carbon dioxide concentrations are actually responsible for the increase in temperature we experience these days. And the other thing is also that the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is actually, the increase is going faster. The cycles you see in the graph there is basically an annual cycle as a result of winter and summer, and also as a result of plants that consume carbon dioxide, which brings us also back to agriculture. So that is one of the greenhouse gases that we are aware of. The other one that came up quite prominently in recent discussions is the whole issue of methane. And there's a graph of the methane emissions per kilogram of protein from beef around the world, and you will see that South Africa is there in the red, as well as East Africa. That's a controversial issue. It's, as I said, it came up recently in the COP discussions, and I know one can talk about this. I'm thinking about the old days when wild animals roamed around this area, thousands of them. If that didn't cause more methane in the atmosphere that we have now, but I'm not going to stick to that topic. So that's another point for discussion. Okay, the 2023 alert, I call it alert. Is it a turning point? And this is basically that the year 2023 showed quite a lot of warning signals in terms of global warming. And it was the warmest year on record, and that's quite a concern. The other points that came out in 2023 is that the Earth temperature has risen by an average of 0.06 degrees Celsius. That's a very small rise, gradual rise since 1850. The rate of warming since 1982 is more than 3 times as fast. This is 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade. So the increase in temperatures, the rate of increase is on the rise. And the 10 warmest years in the historical record have all occurred over the past decade, 2023 to 2014 to 2023. And then we had last year. It was the warmest year since 1850, and then also we had each month since June 2023 was the warmest month on record, especially June and July, where it was the summer in the northern hemisphere, and I think in some places the anomaly of 1.5 degrees Celsius was exceeded, and that was basically in the Paris Agreement, the threshold of where we can expect a runaway climate, as they mentioned. So I think 2023 was quite an important year, and I think it is a sort of a turning point. And previously, people could argue that things are not happening, but I think we are now sure that we are on a dangerous route. Okay, in South Africa, some analysis was done. That map there is showing a paper that was published by Andries Krier from the South African Weather Service, where they found that South Africa, there's a consistent rise of temperature of approximately 0.17 degrees Celsius per decade. And that is a temporal graph showing that, that rise in South Africa. This was also done by the South African Weather Service. And again, 0.16 degrees Celsius per decade. So there's definitely in the South African condition, there's also a rise detected in the temperature, especially over the central parts of the country. Okay, this is quite interesting. These papers occurred last year, over the past 2 years. It was written by Charlotte McBride from the Weather Service, and she received her doctorate degree, I think last week or the week before last week. From this work, and she looked at extreme weather conditions. So what Charlotte found is that the records that was broken over a long period in maximum temperatures and minimum temperatures actually increased over the second part of a study to such an extent that the maximum temperatures are broken 4 times more than over the first part of a study. And then also in her study on rainfall, she couldn't find a trend in the average rainfall, but the amount of rain, the intensity of rainfall falling per day, or the amount of rainfall falling over a short period or specific period is on the increase. And that is quite concerning because it seems that climate is not only changing, temperature is on the increase, rainfall not so much, but on average, but there's indication that the extreme boundaries are shifting, and that is also a topic of concern. I've drawn this picture yesterday evening just to make some points. So we are dealing here with a shift in the average, but I think many farmers are focusing on the average, and they're not really looking at those extreme boundaries. And I think it's very important for each farmer to start collecting data or already get access of a long data record, especially a record of those climate variables that's affecting your farming activities, and to start looking at the extremes, because if we can actually reduce the risk of the current extremes, we might become more resilient to future climate changes. Okay, I'm going to conclude by this, and this is there's very little we can do as farmers. The climate is changing. I don't think it's, or it is not only because of farming. There's very little farmers can do to change the whole situation. That's a much bigger picture, but I think there's some things that people can do or farmers can do to get more resilient or adapt to climate change, and I'm calling this climate-sensitive route. In other words, there's 4 components in this route, and as we go forward, that will definitely improve conditions in your farming activities. The first one is to do observations, measure the variables that's affecting your farming practices, and also collect data and archive data. We know that data is quite a big thing these days in farming, and that's quite important to collect data. And then the next one is to perform statistics on the data, calculate averages, and then frequencies, and especially extremes. I think every farmer must be aware of the extreme boundaries of weather conditions on their specific farm. So observe your climate, know your climate, and then obviously we get some outlooks for the future, climate change, seasonal forecasts, daily forecasts. So look at these forecasts and be aware of these, and also incorporate these forecasts into your decision making processes. And then very important, the last one is to look at the impact. Look at the impacts of these climate variables according to the statistics on your farming activities, and incorporate them also in the decision-making processes to reduce the risks of climate and climate change on the farming community. Okay, that's in short, so thank you very much.